imagine them if they didn't have the Fourth Amendment. So again, these documents are alive and well today. Provisions concerning prosecution, right to a speedy trial. Does that happen anymore?
No.
You know, but they're counting on us just to sit back and hang out and have a good time. Well, I think the good times are over. I mean, most Americans are feeling the pain, just as our founding fathers did. The pain of suffering, the pain of uncertainty. Those of you that are parents and grandparents, God bless you. I don't know what's going to be like for you and your kids and grandkids. Me, I'm out when my dogs go. But the future of the country is uncertain unless we continue to hold these rallies, to be involved with these groups. And man, I love what Terry and Jack do. You know, living, breathing folks that keep our founding fathers alive. You know, big props to them. How about a round of applause, please? You know, a right to a trial by jury, excessive bail, cruel punishment, the rule of construction of Constitution, the rights of the states. I mean, do states' rights exist anymore?
No.
When the federal government says, well, you better wear a seatbelt or you're not going to get the highway funds. Well, you can do whatever you want, but we're just not going to give you money. You know, it's insane. Boy, that's pretty uplifting, isn't it? But I mean, it just goes to show you what we're up against. So again, here is the proclamation from Governor Otter declaring this Bill of Rights Day. And again, as Steve pointed out, there's no reference to God here. Well, thank you, Steve. It was in the original. And, you know, what is America without God?
Nothing.
Who would have ever thought a bunch of farmers and misfits would beat the greatest empire ever assembled at the time? That's our heritage. That's our legacy. That's America. You know? And that's why we're here to honor the Bill of Rights. You know, people can talk about, well, America, then. Yeah? How are y'all doing with your Constitution, your Bill of Rights? You know, people rip it on our country, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I'm going to shut up here in a minute. But I mean, people rip it on our country, but what other nation in the world has as much liberty and freedom that we do?
Zero.
Mr. Franklin, how about any? None. Thank you. All right, here we go. Whereas the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution are referred to as the Bill of Rights, which limit and define the powers of our national government, and whereas in 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared December 15th to be the Bill of Rights Day in commemoration of its ratification in 1791, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the safeguards set forth in our fundamental charter guaranteeing the freedoms we enjoy today, and whereas the Bill of Rights plays a fundamental role in American law and government and remains an essential symbol of our great nation, now therefore I, Kevin Miller, for Butch Otter, C.L. Butch Otter, Governor of the State of Idaho, do hereby proclaim December 15th, 2010 to be Bill of Rights Day. We can all clap now. God bless America.
Kevin, thank you very much, and I appreciate it for everyone coming out here. It's nice to see so many faces that I recognize. We've shared together in this struggle, and it's an ongoing saga. It's not finished, it's only beginning. And as we continue forward, we will have victories, we will have defeats, but we will remain as Americans, united in love, in peace, and we will retain our nation. It's going to happen. And it's going to get done because all of us here are tireless. And no matter how hard you've worked this year, I recognize so many of you that have been, alongside with us. We will get this done. Moving on to the next section, we have Patrick Henry now, who's going to come with us. Patrick Henry had been elected to 5 terms as governor of Virginia. Prior to the Constitutional Convention, Virginia was by far the largest of the colonies. Mr. Henry felt the Constitution as drafted gave too much power to the federal government and weakened the states. Therefore, he refused to sign it. He was joined by 15 other delegates who agreed with him. He is here today to explain his objections and his solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Patrick Henry.
As an attorney, I've traveled to a small town to defend a client, a Upon arrival, I discovered a huge crowd in the public square watching a man who was tied to a post being whipped until his ribs were exposed. When I asked what crime he had committed to deserve such terrible punishment, I was told that he was caught preaching without a government license. And furthermore, he was advocating a denomination that was not approved by the government. This greatly influenced my opinion of the government and its power. The government has too much power and is willing to abuse it. When the new Constitution was drafted in 1787, I felt that it gave too much power to the federal government and weakened the states. Therefore, I refused to sign it. 15 other delegates agreed with me. At the Virginia Convention to ratify the Constitution, I held forth on the floor for 2 solid days trying to persuade the delegates to not ratify the Constitution, but I failed by a very close vote. Therefore, George Mason and I and a few other gentlemen of like-minded formed a group called the Anti-Federalists, and we went to the states and we persuaded the majority of the states to demand a Bill of Rights. On December 15, 1791, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, known as the Bill of Rights, were accepted. Due to my experience in that small town, the first clause of the First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. If we didn't have our Bill of Rights, we wouldn't enjoy many of the freedoms we have today, which have created the greatest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. And we must thank our founding fathers for their wisdom and courage in establishing the Bill of Rights. Thank you, and God bless America.
In closing, I'd like to announce that on Monday, January 17th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., all state and local conservative organizations, including members from 17 Idaho Tea Parties from around the state, will converge here on the steps of the Capitol for events and speeches, as well as workshops in the Capitol from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., and the ability to meet with local political representatives. I don't have a website, but keep your eyes open. I'm sure that information will get around. In closing, thank you for coming out here today. We appreciate everyone that was here, and we really appreciate the effort you're putting into our campaign, I guess, to freedom and liberty. Finally, Winston Churchill said this: "You will not fight for the right when you can easily win without bloodshed. If you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not so costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance for survival. There may be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no chance of victory, because it's better to perish than to live as slaves." Winston Churchill.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out, and God bless the United States.